Hi everyone, it's George. I know this is a bit of a bit of an out there video. I don't really do stuff like this, but I wanted to announce today that yes, can confirm Disguised is signing. Yay, obviously formerly known one of the best players in the world, used to be on Cloud9. So Yay is an official Valorant player for Disguised Toast Valorant team. Now I knew about this roster move. I'm very sorry I did not report it immediately, but I am still unemployed. So I'm under like no obligation to kind of report this kind of move before it happens. I know that's probably what you guys expect of me, but I hope you guys can kind of appreciate that, I like announcements like this. I think it's cool. And I was also given this opportunity to interview Disguised Toast. And I wanted to kind of pick his brains a bit on how this move came about, and his opinions on like the esports scene as a whole. So please enjoy the video. If you would like to subscribe, like the video, comment, let me know what you think. And yeah, so I apologize, but please enjoy. We're here today with Mr. Toast. This is pretty strange. I don't think I've ever really interviewed like a content creator of your size before. But I think we know why we're both here, right? By the time this comes out, Ye would have been officially announced as one of the players that you're signing to Disguise, which is your Valorant roster. Would you like to give a little bit of insight as to how that kind of came about? Because obviously there was a bit of a joke, right, on like April 1st that you kind of signed him, but then also kind of didn't sign him, and then a bunch of rumors started like flying about. So, do you want to just talk about kind of the timeline of what happened there?
Yeah, actually, let me send you this tweet so you can put it up on video. Oh, here we are. So it's funny. So on February 26th, Ye DMs me out of the blue. Like you can see, this is the first time we've
Yeah.
ever exchanged anything, and he just DMs me. I'm like really honored, first of all. It's like I'm surprised you even know who I was. I think this was right after C9 started having their role issue,
Mm.
and what I imagine is like Ye just feeling like a little burnt by the way traditional esports orgs do things. So he actually DMs me saying like, "Hey, wishing the best for DSG." And funny, I reply like, you deserve better, Yay, and I hope whichever team you end up next, like cherishes you."
Mm.
And little did we both know, his next team was DSG.
Yeah.
So he DMs me that, and we lost a player through our challengers, and at the time we can't really switch our roster because of the rules. So I remember thinking, well, uh, Ye DM'd me like I heard he's free, so maybe he likes us enough to give us a shot. So I just like message him and he's like, "Hey, you wanna just see if you like the guys, and the guys like you, and if things work out, we can take it from there." And he said yes, and that's how it all happened.
Mm. I mean, it's kind of crazy because usually it's kind of the other way around, right? Where you kind of have like people reach out to orgs, and it's like, oh, sorry, orgs usually reach out to players, and it's like, oh, are you available type thing. But it's a bit kind of uncommon to see this kind of level of like respect, but also it's clear that like he obviously wants to play under your brand, right? Is that something that you think has kind of came about because of the way you've kind of cultivated yourself in the space? Or do you think there's something else that kind of separates you from these like major organizations that are currently in the scene right now?
Gotcha. I think a big part of it is reputation. Because with every signing and like everything we do at DSG, it's like I'm kind of putting my reputation on the line. Like if it comes out that I kept a player in contract jail or just like really screwed someone over, um, like DSG isn't big enough to be able to kind of like diffuse that responsibility. It all will just land on my plate. So, definitely been trying to do things right, and I think the players can see that the way we handle things, and also just like the attention, of course. I think everyone knows we don't pay that much, but if we say we're gonna pay you like an X amount of dollars, you'll be getting that X amount of dollars. It's never gonna be a case of like, well, we're gonna have to revisit the contract or anything. And also, yeah, like with the DSG game changer stuff, I think a lot of people are kind of catching on that. Like the money you get up front, like 4K, 5K, 7K, that shouldn't be the most important thing, right? It's also about your branding and like whether or not it can further your own personal brand. And we kind of did that for Tupperware on the GC team because she is a great player, and our role here, I think, is just to showcase great talent. Right? There's so much great talent out there, great personalities that don't get the shot they deserve, and while we can't showcase everyone, we can showcase like a couple of people here and there every now and then. And like the thing is, everyone knows who Ye is,
Yeah.
in the Valorant scene. So I'm hoping by joining us, a lot of the more casual audience will also like know who Ye is as well. Because I think right now you got your big names like you got your Tens and like Tarek and Aspes. But I'm hoping by joining us, Ye's name like become like a household name amongst the more casual audience.
So talking a little bit more about Ye and the way he kind of performed last year, obviously considered like, the best player in the world. Won like major trophies with Optic, right? And coming into, Cloud9, very disappointing run. Very short stint. Do you still have very high expectations for the player, or do you think that maybe he, kind of can't really fulfill his level that he was at last year? What do you kind of expect for him?
Expectations. I think I'd be happy for top 8 out of 12 again. I try
Okay.
to keep my expectation low. I also think it's a lot of pressure to put on like one player because ultimately, Valorant's a five-player game with a coach. I think if people are saying, "Oh, Ye's here, guaranteed Ascension win," I think that's being unrealistic, and it's also just unfair amount of pressure to put on one person. Right? He is
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like he can only hold one gun. So. I wouldn't say I have too high of an expectation. I think his leadership in terms of like just being someone who has been like at the top before, I think will help a lot. Like because no one on our team really have been to like the tier one LAN just yet. Like Steve's been around for a long time. Like I would say he's a veteran, but Ye is someone who like played at the highest possible level, and it's super helpful from like a learning perspective for like the other players on the team to like see the way he thinks and the way he plays.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now you do have like multiple players on the roster that have like kind of attended, these kind of international events, with Steel and 100 Thieves and now Yay, you kind of building this kind of pretty legitimate roster when it comes to, players that have attended these big tournaments. And
Hmm.
not like little names by any stretch of the imagination, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of also ask about the deal itself, kind of a bit more details if we kind of, sort of go into it, because I know a lot of fans will be curious as to kind of, where Ye kind of sits about all of this. I obviously assume that he's very happy to be joining a team, but compared to like what Ye is historically known for, he's joined like these major brands, you know what I mean? Like Optic Gaming, he's kind of just joined these kinds of major teams. Do you think there's any expectations on yourself, actually to, fulfill this guy's kind of legacy, keep it going, or do you think this could be, potentially a drawback for him? What do you think is next kind of for your career, but also his when it comes to, this little mixed match you guys have got going on here?
Yeah. Well, we definitely want his time here, however long it is, to be like great for both his career and DSG's legacy, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like let's say Ye spends however long amount of time with us, and he has such a good time, and the franchise orgs come knocking, it's like, hey Ye,
Mm-hmm.
look, we know you're on DSG, but they're just a challenger team. How about like $10 million to join us? And if he chooses to stay, that means we provided him with enough value for him to be down to state, right? And that's also up to DSG to do that. Like he's gonna play, he's gonna practice with the team, he's gonna scrim, but there's gonna be like some other, you know, server stuff, like the way we opened this whole thing, which was like a content piece with a bunch of really big streamers and Tarek, and like it's up to me to
And
like
Tarek. Yeah.
and
It's like
Tarek.
Tarek isn't one of them. Yeah,
Yeah, I
just
mean he's
and
cool
Tarek.
enough. Yeah, he's
No,
just there
yeah.
to play Valorant.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, yeah.
And that's up to me to provide that value, right? Because that's why a lot of people sign up with ESG is because
Hmm.
of the extra value they might get. So
Mm.
I think if Ye decides to like pursue, because that's the one thing that these franchise orgs have going for them, is that they have this coveted franchise spot. But this franchise spot, its prestige is there because Riot like essentially gave it to these orgs, right?
Hmm.
And they
And also, you
decided,
didn't
oh
really exist, right? Back when they were
yeah,
doing
we
the
didn't,
selection process. So
yeah, we didn't exist. Moist Moguls didn't exist.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
now it's like it's up to us in the tier two scene to kind of almost like try and make the tier two scene seem like the cool place to be, right? And that's gonna
Yeah.
take work. And like that's up to me, that's up to Ludwig, that's up to Moist Critical to
Hmm.
try and like create rivalries, create banter, create content around it that people will look at and see, oh man, am I missing out on that by playing in the tier one scene? So right now the tier one scene has like competitive prestige, right?
Hmm.
Um, whereas the tier two, I would say it's like,
Kind of where the fun's at, kind of thing.
yeah, it's like a illegal fight in someone's backyard, right?
That's one
It's
way to
like,
put it. Yeah, like a street
yeah,
fight or something.
it's gonna get scrappy. It's not good, like high tier fighting,
Yeah.
but man, it's probably more fun to be part of that. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot of people will expect that, this team, especially now, will probably, most likely break Challenger's viewership records, definitely.
Yeah.
This guy was the best player of last year, right? Like he's definitely the biggest name that, isn't on a partnered team anymore, right? So, coming into Challengers, I think it's definitely going to be very helpful, not only for the league, but also, for you guys. Um, but I wanted to kind of ask what you get out of this because a lot of organizations, I think, you've kind of understood now that esports orgs don't make money. It's very, very difficult for teams to generate any kind of profit. And I think I wanted to ask if that's something that you're kind of worried about when it comes to, continuing this, or, do you think this is something that you may have to put on, like a hold, maybe in like, you know what I mean? Just kind of talk me through your overview of it all and what you kind of think needs to be done in your opinion.
Uh, Definitely had many nights where I just kind of like stared at the ceiling and legitimately thought to myself, like, I feel like I'm a conductor on a train and I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I've never like steered a train before, and like
Yeah.
a lot of people are paying attention, which is a good thing, but like I do worry about that. Like also the financial of it all, because I'm able to like I would say personally fund DSG with my 8 years of saving for like the next 2 years, right?
Yeah, of
But
course.
what happens at that point where I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I'm looking at my bank account, it's a lot smaller now.
Yeah, that's it's
Um,
a bit of a money pit, right? So, it kind
yes,
of comes into how you kind of generate money out of this, right? Um,
yeah.
and I think
So,
content is probably one of the big ways you could do it, right? Would you say that that's probably a good like idea of trying to like monetize it as much as you can?
oh, 100%. Like, there's a reason why so much orgs are picking up streamers and content creators instead of pro players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look at 100 Thieves, even the Guard tried doing this, where they just pick up streamers, and orgs are still doing this. But now they have to pick up like really small streamers because they don't have the money to pick up big streamers, and they're just kind of hoping these small streamers can blow up and become someone they can sell to their sponsors. So
Hmm.
it's always been about viewership. I mean, the truth of it is, gaming is an entertainment industry, right? Like people, like the sponsors don't care how you get that viewership. It's like
Hmm.
they just need the numbers. I think that was one of the criticism for the DSG Game Changers team was that they're not competitively
I saw that.
like
Yeah.
viable.
Hmm.
And it's true. Like I don't think that team was ever gonna compete with a version one or a Shopify Rebellion. Like they did win one series, so I'm really proud of them for
Hmm.
that.
They did.
But the truth is, like, it's never gonna be like, hey, it's all about competitiveness. Only the best players deserve to be in this league. It's gonna be like a mix up between where it's gonna be people who are really good, but also are great for personal brands, like good numbers, because that's gonna bring the sponsors in. It's gonna like get them the returns they want to see to stay in. Because when sponsors don't see the returns, they leave. Like I think there was a report recently about EG. They lost half their sponsors
Yeah,
this
Richard
year.
Lewis, yeah, posted that. Yeah, half of them just left. I think their biggest one was like Monster, I think, that left. So pretty
Yeah, and that
sizable
one was
sponsors, right? So
yeah, that one like I think Monster was a sponsor of them for like a decade.
yeah,
But the truth is, like eventually they're gonna look at the numbers, and if they spend $100 on you
mm-hmm.
and you make them $50, they just lost half their money, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like it just doesn't make sense. Like you can ask a kid in kindergarten, right? Does that sound like a good deal to you?
Mm.
And they're gonna say no. So the goal here is to keep costs low, because when you keep costs low, it is way easier to recuperate it. And also, my sponsor asked low, like we're talking to sponsor, and I'm like, I don't need that much money. Like I'm actually negotiating against myself in some of these sponsor talks where they're offering like, yeah, we'll give you 200K this year. And I said, would you be okay doing 100K?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you give me 200K and I can only like bring you back 150K worth of value, then you're gonna be upset because you
Yeah,
just lost
and you
25%,
might
right?
like
But
leave, right? And they might cancel.
yeah,
You know, so I
yeah,
get that.
it's
I
like
feel like that's smart.
yeah, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of that where it's like we start small, keep everything low, keep the ask low, and together, like right now, we're not making a lot of money, but at least we're working towards something sustainable. That's the big thing,
Yeah.
sustainability.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I think a lot of fans would kind of appreciate, and even people in the industry would definitely appreciate, um, content creators coming in and kind of acting like a breath of fresh air. Just what you just said. Like I feel like there's a lot of esports organizations historically that have just asked for, the most amount of money, the most amount of sponsors, and have just tried to kind of bring in as much money as they possibly can. And then they do spend these kinds of exorbitant salaries on these players. I'm sure you were probably aware of like, Ye's salary at Cloud9, for example. These kinds of
Yeah,
salaries are not realistic, for most well, just anybody like outside of esports, I think.
yeah.
I think some of those people earn that in a year. So I think we can kind of establish that, you know, esports salaries are ridiculously high, even in Valorant. I think we can probably agree.
Yeah.
So, in terms of your own salaries, would you say you kind of offer a bit more as an organization in terms of what you can offer from a like brand perspective rather than a financial incentive? Is that kind of what you say you would be kind of leaning towards, or what would be your kind of selling point if you was to go to some of these players? Is it just you get to play for Disguised Toast to Walk, like that kind of thing, or what's kind of the play there?
I guess the big one right now is just having fans cheer for you, like no flame
Hmm.
to some of the other challenger org,
Oh,
but
some of them have like zero clout. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I get it. I do
yeah,
get it. Yeah, for sure.
it's like people aren't gonna be like cheering when you like win an event, but your team just has like no fans, unfortunately. Like that's the truth of it. Unless you win the entire thing. Um, so yeah, the branding, the as much as I hate using the word, the clout of it all. And Like I do try and talk to my players about like things they're interested in. Like I always say, hey, do you want to stream with me? Like, do you want to play games? Like with a bunch of streamers and like teachers. Like I think Steele did a really good job. Like he coached four of us in Valorant, and the way his mind works is like it's something like he genuinely feels a lot of passion for. Like I think he could have kept doing that for like 6 hours for every single map we were playing. Like, oh, this
Yeah.
is Ascent, so this is the kind of set we want to run,
Yeah.
and it's all about figuring out each individual player's like selling point. Because
Hmm.
Steel is never gonna be like your wacky like zoomer Valorant player. He's never gonna be a Psalm.
Hmm.
But his selling point, like his strength, is like the analysis, the logic, the thinking, the fundamentals, and giving him a platform to do that is like the way I try and like show my appreciation for like him playing with DSG. And not every player like it's immediate obvious like what their selling point is. So
Hmm.
it's also a learning process for me, understanding on how to get people to like pro players if they're like very focused about just being a pro player. But I know Ye also wants to start like streaming a little more and maybe like do more YouTube highlights because being a streamer, the truth of it is it's way easier to be a streamer than it is to be a pro player. To be a pro
Mm.
player, you're practicing 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
VOD reveals, server work, scrims. Or you can be a streamer, make more money, pick your own time.
Yeah.
But to become a streamer as a pro player is much harder because all pro players try to build their brand, but
Hmm.
it's there's a lot of competition, and they just don't know how. They only know how to click heads,
Hmm.
and hopefully by being on DSG, they can learn a thing or two.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it seems good, but I think also going from like the competitive aspect as well, because obviously, you guys want to win, right? It's not all about, just the content, but I think another thing a lot of, fans will be looking at now is like, these guys are like a decently, like, like you guys are a decent challengers team. And I think the addition of Ye will even strengthen that, like, even more.
Hmm.
And I think there'll be some high expectations from fans, although maybe not yourself, obviously, because you want to keep those expectations low. But I think a lot of fans now, even fans of just challengers themselves, may be looking at this team like, okay, they could probably like win like split two, like outright, if you guys kind of play it well, I guess. But you do still have MAE, the Guard, these kinds of big teams that have kind of been your kryptonite so far. So do you think now that you're kind of going through, obviously you've signed Ye now, but you also, going to get a few more players in. Do you think you could have what it takes to take down either of these teams?
Yeah, I think there's always a chance. We saw M80 lose to Moist Moguls for one map. We saw the
Mm-hmm.
Guard lose a series to G2, lose a series to TSM. I would say they're not untouchable, but they've definitely been like specifically DSG's kryptonite because I think in all three of our series against like the Guard and M80, it has been very one-sided. I think a big part of that is just like well, I'm not in the trenches with the players, but just thinking, oh, maybe they're because people tout them as like the number one seed and number two seed. Maybe it's a mental thing,
Mm-hmm.
or like trying too much to try and like create perfect strategies on execution. But I think with Ye there and his experience, so his attitude is probably like, yo, these guys aren't like anything special. They're just like regular players.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that will make the other players on the team like more confident because they are just like they're good. They're very good, but they're at the end of the day similar to Ye, just like a Valorant player. They're
Mm-hmm.
not God. They're not Jesus. They're not untouchable. If you shoot them in the head, they'll still die.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping we come into the season with a little confidence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of also kind of begs the question about what you expect the team to do in the future. Obviously, as you mentioned with the expectations and stuff, but let's say this team gets into Ascension and you potentially have a chance to, qualify for the International League. what happens then? Do you keep going? Do you put more money into this? Like, what's kind of the process there? Because I feel like your thought process kind of does it remain the same, or what kind of happens there, do you think?
I haven't really thought that far ahead. I mean, we finished eighth place in
Hmm.
NA's tier two scene. There's a lot to accomplish first before even thinking about like winning Ascension.
Mm,
I think even getting to Ascension is gonna be very difficult because there's so much good teams in the league.
yeah.
Uh, as for my thought process, I think it'll be the same. I think things will be maybe like more extravagant because I think if we ever reach that point, we'll have more attention, maybe a couple of sponsors by then, and the opportunities start opening up. Because right now, I would say a lot of sponsors, a lot of advertisers, a lot of like just casual Valorant fans don't even know about DSG just yet.
Hmm.
Because we're still like we're very new. Like 5 months old, and we're playing in the tier two scene. I think until we go to like an international event, like people won't know about us.
Hmm.
So
Will we
that's
be getting official merch? Like with Yale in the back. What I mean? Do you think you could ever like sell stuff like that, or because I feel like that would sell
uh
like hotcakes? No, like I feel like that would go mental. You got
yeah,
anything in the works or?
a lot of people have been asking for merch, and I feel bad because like I thought about just buying a whole bunch of yellow shirts and slapping Stickman on it, and we still
Yeah.
might do that, but I also don't want to sell anything too plain. Like I don't want just like a your run of the mill T-shirt and slap a something simple on it and charge $50. So like I've been talking with my team about that, and I keep telling them like, okay, how long is it gonna take to like create some really cool pieces?
Mm.
And they tell me it's like 6 months. And everyone's been asking for merch now. So it's like if I can only get cool pieces in 6 months, but people want to spend their money now, like do I just do something like meme
Hmm.
now and then just to keep people happy and then do something cool 6 months from now? But the most important thing for me when it comes to merch is like if the fans are happy with how much they spent because merch prices are like, very
Oh, they're
expensive
very
and like
expensive, yeah, for sure. Especially like
yes,
international shipping as well.
yeah,
So
shipping's yeah, like the shirt's $40 and the shipping's $40.
yeah,
Like I'm
honestly,
paying.
sometimes the shipping is more expensive than the actual piece of clothing. Like I've noticed that loads of times. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even like an org like I think 100 Thieves done this once, where they like released their first ever jersey, and it was so awful, yet they still sold quite a lot. Like the way the jersey looked, it was terrible. It was such a bad design. I think everyone kind of just shit on it. Um,
Yeah.
but then just like a few months later they drop some of their most successful pieces of merch. So I think that if that's something that you would consider, I think. Look, I'm just trying to get you to drop merch because personally, I want a cool DSG shirt. I've got like a Sentinels one, an NLG one. I got a bunch of merch like in my closet, so I'm just like, I need more. But no, I think it will be really cool. I think a lot of fans are definitely very excited. Especially now, this is I think another level in terms of what you guys could be, willing to achieve. And I think that this could definitely make the roster, a bit better. I would say, just a tad. I think we could kind of both agree on that, right?
Hmm.
So I think although you may not be setting expectations yourself, I think a lot of people will be, expecting Ye to kind of pick up from his form and kind of improve himself. So I think we'll have to wait and see. But I think it is definitely probably one of the most interesting pickups I think we've seen in a very long time in Valorant. I don't think anyone prior to a few of the memes, I don't think anyone would have probably expected this to happen. So I think my final question to you would be, when you were kind of discussing this, during the whole like April Fool's stuff, and a lot of people were quite curious. Were you kind of keeping track of all of this, or do you kind of just sit back and kind of let it happen? Or what's your kind of approach to this kind of build up? Do you kind of appreciate it? Because I'm very interested, because a lot of orgs don't really play into it. They kind of just drop it, and then, I feel like you have more of an understanding of it from a content perspective. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't really appreciate. Would you kind of agree with that sentiment, you think?
Yeah. I think when you have a signing at this level, you should try and make like a cool thing out of it, but you also can't reveal it right away. But you also want people to like speculate, right? Because right now there's a lot of speculations. Like,
Yeah, of
why would
course. Yeah.
yeah, like all this like streaming and like teasers for a like if it's just for your tier 3, tier 2 player, those wouldn't do that, right? But
Mhm.
it's so obvious that it can't be, especially doing it on April Fools. So there's like a lot of thinking behind that. Because I think even if people have like a really strong inkling, oh yeah, it's probably gonna be Yay. They're still gonna show up just to like, okay, is it actually Yay though? I
Have like a
just need to
bit of
see it
doubt,
for
I
myself.
guess. Yeah. Oh, I can
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah. So a lot of this is part of like the whole process, and of course, thank you to you for not making it public, because like I think very early on I knew you knew. And I'm like, oh man, this is such a great story for him that like when it comes to stuff like this, you it's just part of like if things do get leaked, it's like it's just part of the industry. So
Mhm.
on my end, I really appreciate you being able to work with us. It's just so everyone knows, like George knew, like if anyone has any doubts about his connects in the industry, he knew a while ago.
I was sworn to
But
secrecy. But
yeah.
no, I think we could kind of talk about that process a bit at the end as well, just to kind of clarify it all. I think, like, ever since I was released from my publication, I think I kind of wanted to take a new approach to it, where I could kind of, take my foot off the gas a little bit because I'm not really under any obligation anymore. And I think I can kind of work my own content into something like this, right? I feel like I wouldn't
Hmm.
have had this opportunity to speak to you if I would have just reported out of the blue. Because I feel like you would have been very annoyed. so, so I feel like, obviously I think I kind of have to, diversify it a little bit so I can, we can, you scratch my back, I scratch your back type thing, So
Yeah.
I think it'll be a cool announcement. I think obviously by the time people realize, I think it'll be very interesting to see. But I do appreciate you taking the time, Toast. This has been, a great interview. So yeah, if there's anything you do want to say to conclude, I will wish you the best of luck for challenges. I think a lot of people will be watching. So, good luck. I think it will definitely be very interesting to watch challenges in the next split. So, for sure, I think a lot of people will be watching. So, you will have a lot of eyes. It's just whether you guys can, kind of make it. And, I don't want to say there is a little bit of pressure there, but I think, people will be applying it. So, I guess we'll have to kind of wait and see. I hope you guys, continue to watch it. Obviously, Toast, I believe you will continue to co-stream it, if I'm correct in saying.
Yeah.
So that viewership's going to go through the roof. So, anyways, I appreciate you taking the time, Toast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a really good time talking about the intricacies of these because it's all very new to me, and talking
Mm-hmm.
about it's a lot of fun because it's like I think most people don't know how things work in the esports scene. I still don't really know how things work, and a lot of times I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me, and I would like talk to my audience about it. They're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either. So I think even with like the way you just described like you're thinking now, it's like it's not necessarily like, oh, I need to be the person to break this news so I can get more clicks on this website because that's what my boss wants. It's like I feel like there's a way for everyone to kind of work together so that everyone benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm excited for the esports scene. I know everything seems like it's on fire, and it kind of is with like FaZe, TSM, CLG, The Guard, and like 100 different things right now. But I think this is good. I think a reset was necessary, kind of like a healthy adjustment is the PR way to say it. Like it definitely sucks now, but it
Hopefully, it will
does.
suck less, like in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that will definitely
exactly.
happen. And I think you guys will probably play quite a substantial part in that. sponsors looking in and they're thinking, wow, you know, why if these guys are getting in, you know, then you know it seems like a a decent investment. So I think from a Valorant standpoint, at least we're doing something right. So I think
Yeah.
in that sense, I think we're doing okay.